What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, throughout the offseason, right before the season began, the big question for the Detroit Lions was, one of the questions that a lot of people asked was, what was the weakness of this team going to be? And a lot of people said the offensive line because of the, changes they saw in the offseason, as well as just some of the uncertainties when it comes to some of the offensive line positions. And, a lot of people's thought process was that if any unit was going to hold this Detroit Lions team back on the offensive side of the ball, it was going to be the offensive line. However, watching the first two games of this NFL season, I have found that the opposite has actually been true, and that the Detroit Lions offensive line, despite having some injury concerns early in the season, has actually been one of the Detroit Lions' most effective, most efficient, and one of their most dominant units on the football field throughout two games. And I don't think people realize how good this Detroit Lions offensive line is actually playing. So today I wanted to go over, what they've done as a unit, what they've done as individuals, and, give this offensive line some credit because they have stepped up in a time where the Detroit Lions roster has not been playing well as a team, and they have really stepped up and been the dominating force. They have really stepped up and won a lot of their matchups, and they have given this Detroit Lions team the opportunity to be successful on the offensive side of the ball, and I need to give them credit because I don't think people realize how good this offensive line is actually playing for the Lions. Now, before we do get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel, as it takes only 2 seconds out of your day to do so, and helps me push this channel out to more Detroit Lions fans such as yourselves. So if you could do that, I would be greatly appreciative for it, and it would help the channel out a lot. But with all that being said, let's get into talking about this offensive line and, give them the credit they deserve because they have been impressing so far, and they have been one of my favorite units to watch all season. Now, when I list these stats, keep in mind that Big V has not played in either game so far. He is expected to return in Week 3 against the Arizona Cardinals, and Joe Dahl, our starting left guard, has only played in one game as he was placed on injured reserves after the Chicago Bears game. Now, one of the big reasons that a lot of people had questions for this offensive line was obviously that we lost some key players and we replaced them with unproven guys. We lost Graham Glasgow in the offseason. He went to the Denver Broncos, and we drafted a third-round guard in Jonah Jackson to replace him, so people were concerned about that, as well as we lost Rick Wagner, who is a seasoned NFL veteran, and, why he wasn't a super good tackle was, so we still knew what we were getting out of Rick Wagner, and we replaced him with Big V, who has really been a career backup for a majority of his career. So, that is where a lot of the questions come from, along with the fact that we didn't know who our left guard was going to be until Week 1 actually started. So, the reason for concern was definitely there. Like, I can definitely see why people thought it, and I was one of those people that thought that this, offensive line was going to be a weakness of the team. However, throughout 2 games of the NFL season, the offensive line has stepped up and played tremendously. Even without Big V and Joe Dahl for one of their games, the Detroit Lions offensive line have allowed 164 of our rushing yards before contact, which is 72% of our rushing yards. So the offensive line is getting push up immediately for the running game. They have given our running backs 164 rushing yards before they've even been met, and I believe we only have like 200 something on the season. So 72% of our rushing yards really go to our offensive line because they are getting pushed. They are pushing the defensive line off the ball. They are getting really good push, getting really good penetration down the field, and they are allowing our running backs to have a lot of space before contact to get yards. And when our running backs get going, when Adrian Peterson gets rolling, he's going to fall forward every time for even more yards. So, having 72% of our rushing yards come before contact is a big testament to that defense or to that offensive line, and that shows how well they're playing and how much they are impacting this running game this season. They are also, I believe, allowing 3.3 yards before contact on every single carry. That means that our running backs average 3 yards in front of the line of scrimmage before they even are met with contact by the defense. So, again, that's just a testament to our offensive line. They have been playing so well. They've been blocking their butts off, and they have been allowing this running game. They have been allowing Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift to have success in the NFL in this 2020 season because of their amazing play. If you're curious where that yards before contact ranks in the NFL, they actually ranked 8th in the NFL throughout 2 weeks of yards before contact, so they are 8th in the NFL in that, which is obviously a top 10 statistic, which is really good for our offensive line. However, when you look at more stats, the offensive line play looks even better, as the Detroit Lions are 5th in yards per attempt before contact, so that's that 3.3 I mentioned. They're actually 5th in that I can't remember who they're behind, but a lot of the teams that they are behind have rushing quarterbacks, so that kind of inflates that stat a little bit. So they are 5th in rushing yards before contact per carry at 3.3. They've only allowed 4 hurries on the NFL season, which is 4th best in the NFL. They've only allowed 15 pressures on the NFL season, which is 9th best in the NFL. And remember, they've done this without Big V for 2 games, with a different starting left guard for each of the games. So, that is really, really solid for the offensive line. They are pretty much top 10 in a lot of statistics that are really important. Rushing yards before contact, pressures, hurries. They have allowed 5 sacks on the season, but a lot of those have come from, Tyrell Crosby or whoever was subbing in at that right tackle position. And, they have really been struggling at that position, that right tackle, because, obviously our starter isn't there, and the backups are going against really good pass rushers so far in the NFL season, so they have been beat a couple times. But outside the right tackle, our offensive line has been playing elite in the NFL season so far, and with Big V coming back, with our starting right tackle returning to the lineup, the offensive line play is only going to improve. The offensive line play is only going to get better as far as rushing yards before contact. It's only going to get better with the hurries. It's only going to get better with the pressures. And, everything is going to improve on this offensive line because we are returning yet another starter to this offensive line to make it better than it already is. Moving on to the individuals, because yeah, it's great that they're playing as a unit, but what have our starting offensive line done as individuals so far? Well, starting at the left tackle position in Taylor Decker, who got a huge contract and extension in this offseason, he has started to live up to that, as he has played in 137 snaps for the Detroit Lions so far, committed 0 penalties and allowed 0 sacks on Matthew Stafford. So he has kept Matthew Stafford clean in the pocket. He has shut down Khalil Mack. He has shut down Preston and Zadarius Smith. Like, it's not like he's going against bad pass rushers either. Khalil Mack is elite. Zadarius and Preston Smith are very, very good pass rushers. And Taylor Decker has shut down all of them and not allowed a sack, not given up a penalty, and really not allowed anything from that left side of the offensive line. And he is really starting to, emerge as an elite left tackle. I know some people are going to say that's, jumping the gun a little bit, but Taylor Decker so far in the 2020 season has been playing elite. He has been playing up there with the best tackles in the NFL, and it is great to see that he is finally emerging to be, to exceed that first round expectation that so many people have had for him for so many years. Looking at our starting left guard, who only played in 1 game, admittedly, Joe Dahl, he played in 79 snaps for the Detroit Lions against the Chicago Bears. He allowed 0 penalties and 0 sacks as well, so he kept him really clean from that side. He also opened up a lot of holes in the run game. There were a couple of plays that come to mind where Joe Dahl was just blowing the Bears defensive line off the line. He was giving the running back so much space, and that was a big reason why Adrian Peterson was able to have such a fantastic day on the ground in week 1, is because Joe Dahl was opening up all of that space on the left side of the offensive line. And with Taylor Decker and Joe Dahl playing at such a high level, obviously that left side of the offensive line is staying really clean, is staying great for Matthew Stafford, and that, when you can take away pressure from the blind side of the quarterback, that is going to help your team be successful. That is going to help your quarterback be more confident, help your quarterback play better. It's going to help your running backs play better because they're going to have more open holes. They're going to have more space to work with on that left side. And, with our left side of the offensive line being so good and so clean early in the season, we haven't really had to worry about giving up sacks from that side. Matthew Stafford hasn't really had to worry about, sacks and pressures coming from that side, so he can really focus on the right side. And, if something's coming from the right side, then he can move, but he doesn't really have to be watching his blind side anymore because the offensive line is playing so well on that side. Now, then we get on to Frank Ragnow, who we all know is a monster at center, was probably Bob Quinn's best draft selection so far throughout his tenure with the Lions. Frank Ragnow has played in 137 snaps as well for the Detroit Lions, given up 0 penalties and 0 sacks, and is actually graded the 2nd highest center by Pro Football Focus on the season so far. So, Frank Ragnow has been playing elite. This dude does not allow pressures. He does not allow sacks. He does not give up penalties. This dude is a monster. This dude is the key to our offensive line. He is the man in the middle. He is going to anchor this offensive line for a long, long time. And in a couple of years, when his contract is up, we are going to pay this man a lot of money because he has been the anchor to this offensive line. He will continue to do so. And, he is just the best player on this offensive line, bar none. And, it is really, really good to see him come out after, he struggled his rookie season a bit at right guard. He moved to center, and all of a sudden, like a flip of a switch, like a snap of the finger, this dude became elite overnight. And, he's continuing to get better every single day, every single season. He continues to improve. And, he has really lived up to that first round draft pick, and in my opinion, is playing elite as a center, obviously being graded the 2nd highest center in the NFL. Moving on to the right guard spot, we are starting our we are starting our rookie guard in Jonah Jackson. Now, Jonah Jackson has played in 129 snaps for the Detroit Lions so far. He's given up 1 penalty and 1 sack, so a little bit worse than the other offensive linemen we've talked about so far. But again, this dude is a rookie drafted out of the 3rd round, and for him to step up and start against two really good front sevens, 2 really good pass rushing teams that put a lot of capital into their front 7, he's made some rookie mistakes. I'm not going to tell you that he's been playing perfect, but he has played very well. He has stepped up and probably been the Detroit Lions' most impressive rookie so far out of this draft class. And coming out of the 3rd round is, doing that as a 3rd round draft pick is really impressive, especially on an offensive line. Now, I can't remember the exact stat, but I saw something that Jonah Jackson was also graded like a top 3 rookie offensive lineman out of this entire rookie class, only behind, I believe it was Jedrick Wills and somebody else. But, behind those 2 guys, he was the 3rd highest rated rookie offensive lineman out of any position on the offensive line. He was graded the 3rd highest out of everybody that was drafted in this draft class. Obviously, he gave up 1 sack and 1 penalty so far, but he is a rookie. He's going to make rookie mistakes, but for the most part, for a majority of his snaps, he has played really well, and he has really stepped up to the NFL and shown that it was time. He was ready to step into the NFL and make an impact, and he has done that so far with the Lions. Now, looking at our right tackle, Tyrell Crosby has played that position for most of the season so far and is going to get benched hopefully this season or this week because he has not played super well. Now, I got all these stats from Pro Football Focus, so I can't, this Tyrell Crosby one seems kind of low to me, but these are the stats that they did say he had. So Tyrell Crosby has played 137 snaps for the Detroit Lions according to Pro Football Focus. He has given up 2 penalties and 1 sack on Matthew Stafford. Once again, he is a backup, and he has not been playing well. I feel like he's given up more sacks. I feel like he's given up more penalties, but if that is the case, then he's obviously our weakest link on the offensive line right now. He has been playing the worst, but that is to be expected out of a backup. If you are a backup on a line of all starters, then obviously you're not going to be up to standard of all those guys. Tyrell Crosby is an okay backup. He can come in once in a while if you need him to step in for a couple plays, but Tyrell Crosby is not a starting caliber right tackle, and those stats, and he should be benched in this week. He should be sitting behind Big V for a majority of the game, if not all of the game. So that problem, that weak link on the offensive side of the ball, on that offensive line, that right tackle position, the weakest link of our offensive line is going to get fixed this week, and we're going to have another really young, really promising, big, strong offensive lineman in there to run block and pass block for the Detroit Lions against an Arizona Cardinals team that, outside of Chandler Jones, to me doesn't have an elite pass rush, isn't necessarily as strong or as scary in the front 7 as Green Bay and Chicago are. Looking at all of our offensive line, what they've done as a unit, what they've done as individuals, they have been playing very well this year, and they have been a top 10 unit throughout the league, and you can probably make an argument that they are a top 5 unit in the NFL or very close to it, because a majority of the stats, the rushing yards before contact, the pressures, the hurries, they're all top 10 in the NFL, and obviously only allowing 4 hurries being 4th in the NFL is a top 5 stat. So, the offensive line for the Detroit Lions has been really good for them this season. It has really been the strength of the team, and that is something the Detroit Lions need to rely on. They need to allow these guys who are playing so well, these offensive linemen that are playing at elite levels, to go out and prove, go out and win them football games. They need to run the football behind this offensive line that gives them 3.3 yards of, that gives them 3.3 yards before contact on every single rushing attempt. They need to go out and lean on this offensive line that has only given up 4 hurries in 2 games against elite front 7s in the Bears and the Packers. The Detroit Lions have found a unit in the offensive line that has been dominating the NFL. They have taken the NFL by storm, and although they are not the flashiest unit, although they are not going to put up mind-boggling stats that, you can look at and say, dang, that guy had 1,000 receiving yards, that guy had 5,000 passing yards, they're not the flashiest position, they're not going to put up the best stats, and they are not always going to be the fan favorites. But as of right now, the Detroit Lions have constructed an offensive line that is playing better than most in the NFL. They have an offensive line that is run blocking better than most, a offensive line that is pass blocking better than most, and they have really constructed a unit that they can have confidence in and that they should be relying on in the future if they want to have success running the football and winning football games. Now, with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. As I said, this offensive line has been playing elite. This offensive line has been dominating. And, I thought, it's just time that they deserve the respect because they have probably been the Detroit Lions' best offensive unit throughout the NFL season so far. And I have no doubts that they will continue to improve. They will continue to stay in that top 10 fringe, top 5. And by the end of the season, we might be talking about this offensive line as a top 5 offensive line in football going into 2021. That is all I got for you guys today. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, I will obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that is all I got for you guys today. If there is no Lions news, then I will see you all tomorrow with more Detroit Lions content. But until then, that is all I got for you guys right now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.